alert, we're unpacking the whole plot, twist by twist. If you're spoiler sensitive, hit pause and come back when your TBR list catches up. Cheers!
Hi, I'm Gabby.
I'm Miranda.
Welcome to Marginally Unwell, your go-to podcast for cracked spines, literary scandals, and readers who are only slightly delusional. Today, we are going to be spying on Riley Sager's The House Across the Lake. The drinks are strong, the neighbors are shady, and the plot twists lurk just beneath the surface.
So, this book, I had a lot of thoughts about this book while I was reading it.
Yeah.
But we'll dig into it.
I'm having a lot of feelings about this book.
Yeah. So which is good for our first episode. Like some good thoughts as we go through it. But the book starts off with Casey Fletcher. She's our I don't even know. Is she our protagonist? Main character.
Yeah. She's giving main character energy.
Main character and just delusional. Maybe not delusional. She's got some stuff going on. And so starts off with Casey Fletcher. She moves back into her family's lake house that she's had in her family for generations. And her mother sent her there, and she's famous. What is she famous for?
She's an actress. The mom?
The mom. I think she was also she was a singer. Anyway,
I don't know. She's
a Nepo baby. Casey's a Nepo baby. They were like forcing her into like fame and stuff, and she didn't want to do that. And then she fell into theater and liked being like the secondary character of like films. Casey did. She fell into like small roles in films, like the best friend in like films.
I knew she did that, but I didn't remember her being like, that's what I like to do.
She didn't want to do singing, and she didn't want to get into acting, but then she realized she was good at it, and she liked it. She liked the theater and being like the best friend.
I remember her talking about like liking theater, like live, like theater.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's an actress.
Yes. She's an actress.
Who begrudgingly fell in the footsteps of her mother.
Yes. So her mother shipped her off to the family lake house to get her shit together because she's just fallen off the handle.
We've all been there.
A disgrace.
Unfortunately, we all don't have a family lake.
You need to be shipped off. I would love to, thank you. I need a break. Imagine, I would love to be shipped off to a lake house. Sit there and read, drink.
That would not be a punishment for me. I'm going to lay it out there at that.
Sounds like a vacation.
Sounds majestic. It's actually something I really want in my life. But she was shipped off because she's going through it with... She, like, flew off the handle.
She flew off the handle she's a grieving widow. Mm-hmm. Her husband died. I can't remember. I think it was, like, a year.
Yeah, I think it was a year.
It had been a year, and her mother sent her there so she can get it together. And stop drinking because she had been an alcoholic and all this stuff. But lo and behold, she's still drinking at the lake house. So, who wouldn't? So it starts off like that. And in her narrative, it sounds like she's pretty lonely after, even before her husband. Like, she didn't have very many friends. She didn't have, like, a support system. I think her, like, friend was her cousin / manager / best friend. So a big part of her life was her husband, and I think she lost her connection with the theater because of drinking, and so she started losing those acquaintance friendships. You know, she didn't have, like, those deep connection kind of friendships. So she's all alone in this lake house with her neighbor that brings her alcohol. And Eli,
that's his name.
He does her weekly liquor run that her mom doesn't know about. And in exchange for getting that, Casey makes her dinner once a week. So she gets bored.
She seemed like a good cook. I don't know if it actually said, like, I
don't know exactly what she made, but
it
sounded
wasn't obviously like a professional, and it didn't seem like...
She was a good home cook person.
I don't know. It seemed like the stuff that she was making was kind of like... It was more intense than my microwave chicken nuggets, okay?
I don't remember what she cooked, but I remember it being some kind of, like, pasta meal, and Eli was excited about it, because they had wine
in
with
depth. It wasn't just, like... spaghetti.
Yeah,
is what I
it
was
wasn't-
trying to get at.
Well,
I
mean,
swear I could make more than chicken nuggets.
spaghetti.
Listen, I mean, spaghetti. Okay.
Yeah, but she put an effort into cooking for sure, which is
So they swapped that so she could get wasted every day, and he could eat like a real meal. Because I think he was just like an older
yeah,
guy who lived alone.
yes, there's a bunch of houses on the lake, like neighbors. I mean, they're further away. They had to use, if they didn't use their cars to get to each other's, so they weren't like next door to each other.
Yeah,
Like,
it was
there
kind
was
of like
some
across the lake, so they had to go around or
Use the lake
yeah.
in a fisherman boat.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't
Some
know
kind
the
of boat.
balls.
The what?
Boats. I don't know. I was gonna say paddle boats, but then it wasn't that. It was like
I thought you were trying to say buoy. I'm not going, and I was like, that's not a boat.
no, it floats.
I know, but I don't know what you were trying to say.
I thought I was gonna say paddle boat, and then with me realizing in my brain that it's not that, I tried to change it to boat, and it didn't happen.
And that's where everything went wrong.
So anyway, he lives there permanently. Everyone else uses the lake homes as a vacation. So he's the designated, I'll keep an eye on the property, let you know if anything happens, whatever. So he's that reliable neighbor that everybody wants.
And it seems like whenever they all are in town for like the summer or whatever, the season, they all kind of like have their little
Yeah.
community and stuff, and they look out for each
They
other.
congregate and all this stuff.
Until there's a new
Until-
resident.
There is two new residents, married couple across the lake from where she is. So from what I was envisioning is directly across. Okay. Like there's the patio, there's the lake, and then here's like this modern monstrosity of a house on the lake compared to everyone else's like old. I think she said her house was originally, because it's generational, it was the oldest one on the lake. It was the first one, and it was started in 1920, and then they started building off of it
I don't remember it saying hers was the first, but I knew for sure. I mean, yeah, it definitely said it was like old, and it had been in her family for a long time.
Yes, everyone else's houses have character, and that house is like all windows, all modern,
Yeah,
and it was a sore thumb. And I don't want to say sore thumb, but it
stuck out from
It
all
stuck
the rest.
out
It
from
was
all the rest.
definitely different.
valued insanely.
And so it was bought by essentially like a tech guru. I don't even know what I'm trying to say again.
Tech mogul.
Mogul.
Yeah.
That you took that right out of my head.
Okay, I knew what you were trying to say.
And apparently, ew, why did I just say apparently? I don't know.
I was
And tech mogul and famous model.
Yes. And what are their names? Tom? Ted? Tom Royce and
Catherine.
Catherine Royce.
Yeah. The Royces.
The Royces.
So that sounds like they got money.
Right? I'm thinking
Maybe
like
that's-
Royce. And I'm like,
We're done.
stop.
We need to stop sharing the same brain cell at the moment.
But so she's been spying on them because she likes to sit on her porch and drink her whiskeys and with her binoculars and like kind of spy on people.
She did that initially. I think that she like was watching them and then got the binoculars because they were apparently her husband's for like birding or something. Remember she
Yeah,
said that he like randomly got into it and bought like expensive ass binoculars, and so then she was like curious about this new couple. They live in this crazy house, blah blah blah, and so she's like watching them and then breaks out the binoculars.
Yeah, you are probably right. I know she saw them walking around in the house and she was interested in seeing what was going on. So I know she I remember her sitting out on her deck patio area and just watching the lake, which, I mean, sounds great.
Yes.
But she saw them and interested, got the binoculars and started getting invested into this couple. And I don't remember. I think it was like the very next day.
Yeah, because I think she saw them like in their lights on and stuff, whatever. And I think this was also like during the off season, so like all the other houses didn't have people, and so it was kind of like obviously weird for her to be seeing people like in the house and whatever. And so then, yeah, I think it was the next day that then she's like looking at the house and then gets the binoculars. And then sees
Right.
Catherine.
In the lake, right? This is
Yeah.
where we're going.
Yeah, and I was trying to say how I wanted to, what? I was trying to figure out how I wanted to say it. Because I don't know if she was like actively drowning or did she see her like floating there?
She saw her floating but not moving.
Okay.
And it triggered her
because
of what happened to her husband.
yes.
And so while we're reading,
Oh, yeah. Wait, side note. That was crazy because we did find out that I thought it was really super weird that they like forced her to go back there and that she wanted to
Yeah.
go back there when that's the place where her husband, he drowned in the lake. So it's kind of like, what a weird place to like go be. Anyway.
she also had some thoughts about that. She's like, she liked the home, but it was also terrible because that's where her husband died.
Yeah.
But she's like, I remember her reading that she was saying it was either that or rehab and she would rather go there.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Still, it was weird. So anyway.
Face your problems head on.
Immersion therapy, okay? So, anyway, back to what we were talking about with that side note. She had some obvious PTSD from her husband drowning, so she sees Catherine, who she doesn't know is Catherine, but sees a woman like floating in there.
I think she just sees the... No, not even a... No, she didn't have a life vest on.
Yeah, and so jumps in the boat, heads out the lake to go see her.
Rescue.
Gets her out the lake.
She's like, pulls her in, and she's like, oh my gosh, she's gone, she's dead, she's blue.
She's lifeless, and she like dragged her in, and then she like gets her in the boat, and then she's like, I'm alive actually.
She like starts coughing and everything up and starts regaining color, and just she being Casey's just like, this is crazy because it really looked like she was gonna die. And then all of a sudden she takes a breath of life.
Yeah, because I don't even think she did like CPR or anything.
No,
it was
didn't.
literally like
Threw her in the boat because she was exhausted. She didn't have a life jacket for herself. She's pulling dead weight, half drunk.
Also true.
Goes into the lake that's freezing cold apparently, and has to lift somebody that's not like dead weight into a boat. I don't even know how.
Couldn't be
Because
me.
I mean, like,
I've
if you
zero
lift
upper
somebody,
body
you're
strength.
gonna go under, right? That's how I was like.
I don't know, because if you
up.
hold on to like if she could hold on to the side of the boat and try to like leverage,
like hold it down, and then because I was managing her like
fully just like bench pressing her above,
be like
throw her, picturing her like kind of like leaning with one arm and then like
See,
heaving
that makes
her
sense.
over. Okay.
did not picture that.
I don't want.
I'd be like, come on, I'd pull you
I don't
out.
want you around because then we're both gonna die. Because you're gonna be trying to lift me and going under the water.
I know, yeah. I'd be like, man, my kicks aren't working. They aren't keeping us afloat. Anyway, she saves her. She's alive, and that's how she gets introduced to the wife next door, and
She recognizes her.
she recognizes her. Who? Casey?
She recognizes Catherine.
Catherine as a model and introduces herself, and the model recognizes Casey, and she's like, we're meaning to come and say hi because her husband is a fan and they wanted to introduce, and of course she's embarrassed and she's thankful and all the things, and so Casey ends up taking Catherine back to her house, and I thought this was really crazy. Because whenever their first interaction, Catherine's like, my husband, my husband, my husband. And Casey clocks that, oh man, she really talks a lot about her husband, but I didn't see a wedding ring. And I'm like, why would you wear your wedding ring whenever you're swimming in a lake?
Yeah.
That was my immediate thought. I mean, it's got to be expensive because, I mean, like, look at the house that they're in.
Yeah, another tangent.
Huh?
Just went to the lake like 2 weeks ago,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't take my engagement ring with it.
I would not.
I did put on a little like plastic band, just so I was still wearing something.
Oh, the ones for like the EOS one or something. Is it EOS? It's the chapstick. I realized, yeah. I'm thinking those silicone bands.
Yeah,
Will
yeah.
do
I
for,
don't
like,
have one of those, but I
blue
have
collar
these like
work or-
plastic ones that look kind of like colored marble. They're kind of cool
okay.
looking. So, but they were super cheap or whatever. This is like a whole not
So you don't
necessary
care
story.
if it gets lost.
I didn't care if it got lost, but I
I mean,
wasn't
the
about-
meaning is still there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I fully think it would be normal if you just like, because if I didn't have anything, I just wouldn't have worn my ring to the lake because I'm not gonna risk that.
Yeah. I
Absolutely
would,
no.
like, to the beach or a lake.
And I lost my sunglasses. So, you see what happens?
And those were on my face. Yeah. No, I thought I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, who wears a ring swimming in the lake?
Yeah. And like you said, it's probably like our.
It's probably a rock. They spent millions of dollars on the house.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Anyway, so she was impressed and she ends up going back home. And later on, I don't know if it's that same night or the next day, but Tom and Catherine go over to Casey's to say hi, introduce themselves officially, and say thank you.
They do. I don't know. I thought it was that night also,
'Cause
but
it was in the evening.
she was like kind of getting more obsessed because then after she took her back and then went back to her house, she was like watching them more and then saw like some weird stuff happening. I think that was whenever Catherine got that like phone call or she was on the phone or something, and then she saw Tom like
Trying to hear
going
her.
to the other room to like hear her, like he was like obviously like trying to listen to her, and then whenever he went into the room with her, she like hid the phone, and it was like a weird interaction.
Yeah.
I think that was that like later that day, and then it was either that night or the next night in the evening they come speedboating over. I was picturing like a nice
with
like, little
thank you
speedboat.
wine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and brought her sweater back.
It was
or-
a blanket. Yeah. I mean, same
The
thing.
thing.
Yeah. I think it was that same night.
I feel like it was too. So we're just gonna
Because
say it was.
We're going to say it's that night. Because she has Eli over with her weekly liquor and she's cooking dinner, and now Eli and her are sitting on the porch and they're drinking their wine or whiskey, whatever. And they come over and Tom makes a big show of, hello, and I have these two red bottles of wine that cost $5,000 each. And he makes like this big
Which ew.
yeah, first of all, just bring the wine and like don't say
We don't
anything
need the
about
commentary, okay?
it. Yeah. And Catherine's like, oh yeah, he's very into, what did she say, looks or perception or she said status.
Yeah.
He's into status.
Yeah, and that was weird too because she made a lot of comments like in the boat and then during this dinner and stuff like
Offhand
it's, like,
comments
kinda
of
like
like-
negatively speaking about
Yeah.
him and like how he's just worried about
because
money.
in the
Like-
boat when they first interacted, they're like, and Casey, I don't know how this was brought up, but Casey ended up asking Catherine, why did you stop modeling? And she goes, short answer, my husband wanted me to stop. And so it's like not quite negative but not quite positive either, like kind of like ick, like she gets the ick comments,
Yeah. Which I mean
valid.
and then also when they showed up, that was whenever he was like kind of like gushing over her because he had seen her play or whatever.
Loved your performance.
Yeah.
And loved that, and how he was, it gave me such vibes whenever he was opening the bottle of wine and like telling them how they should drink it and they should savor it and smell
With
it.
his hands.
I'm like, this is becoming more of a chore than like than a thank you.
So it ends up being kind of a weird night because
Catherine ends up getting sick, and they start a bonfire. Catherine gets
which
lightheaded.
she seems kind of like wasted.
Yeah. She seems to get drunk very quickly off of a glass and a half-ish of wine. One, because she downs the first glass, and then she starts sipping on the second one. And then it goes straight to her head. She gets a headache, she starts feeling dizzy, and then all of a sudden she, like, passes out. She hits her
I
head.
don't know. I thought she just fell. I don't know. I don't know why I can't
Maybe
remember.
she fell. She hit her. She's on the ground.
And then he like made some kind of like comment about,
oh, you really made a mess of yourself.
yeah. And I was like, oh, also you.
He like drags her to the boat, and they end up going home. And Casey's like, well, he forgot his $5,000 bottle of wine, so this is mine now.
Was that the one too that she like went and opened on her own?
Yeah,
After he like made the big deal about opening the first one, and then she like secretly went.
Like, screw Tom, I'm just gonna rip this thing open. Oh yeah, she ended up getting more and more upset because they kept talking about people dying on the lake, and they're so grateful. Because then that's whenever Eli started talking about the
girl that had like went missing or died. I think went missing. Yeah.
And went missing, and then they're like, the couple, Tom and Catherine, were talking about, Eli, you must know so many stories about the lake. And then he's like trying to be chauvinistic and tell him the ghost story about the lake, and about mirrors and the reflections, and how something about the soul getting captured in the mirror, and at night, what did he say? About the lake being a reflection, and that you shouldn't die in the lake because it'll capture your soul or something. And so it was like triggering Casey, and she was like angrily trying to open this $5,000 bottle of wine, and she's like, can we stop talking about the lake?
She didn't say that, but she thought it.
No, she said it.
Did she say it?
She said it. Because they're...
Was that whenever they were like, okay, we're gonna go?
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry, we shouldn't have, blah, blah, blah. Mm. And then that's whenever Catherine started feeling, and she just fell or passed out or something. And Tom, like, ended up dragging her home. Mm-hmm. And then Eli apologized to Casey. He's like, I didn't realize I apologized. And she's like, let's just stop talking about it. So I think he ends up leaving, and that ends that night. And so Casey gets more invested with their relationship and dynamic, and busts out their binoculars. She needs a better visuals of the house across the lake. So she gets more and more suspicious of the couple.
Like, what instances happened after that? Because she starts watching them, and then I don't remember if there was anything. Obviously there had to have been something specific, but I can't recall like any one instance, but she clearly kind of thought that Tom was like
controlling
and possibly maybe like physically abusing Catherine. Like the way that she narrated like watching them in the house and stuff, and it was like obvious that Catherine was like
uncomfortable
and like skittish around him, kind of things like that. I don't think that she ever saw him like hit her, but it was like the tone of her telling about like what they were doing in the house,
what she was seeing.
Like, so
she got more and more suspicious of Tom. And she and Catherine end up becoming friends. Like Catherine calls her. Catherine calls Casey. They have like conversations. Catherine will go and have like a coffee with her in the morning. They had made plans, I think, to meet in the evening, but she never showed up. And so she had been like watching the house, and she kept calling Catherine, but Catherine never answered. Casey went over to the house to try and like find her. And that's when she was like suspected Tom had something to do with her disappearance, because now she like disappeared, and Tom's like, we got into a fight.
It wasn't a disappearance at that point. She went over there, and he said that she went back to New York, and so Casey was like, what the heck, because she like didn't say anything, and we had plans essentially, and like she's kind of weird that she just like left. And so she kept asking more questions, and then he ends up getting upset and is like, well, we got in a fight, and she went home, and she doesn't want to be here.
Her apartment in New York.
So she leaves, but is suspicious.
She is suspicious. And she goat ropes her cousin to go check the apartment to see if she's there in New York. And then her cousin's like, she's not there.
Yeah, because she
saw an Instagram post.
Yeah, she posted on Instagram. Wait, I thought the cousin didn't verify, because I thought that she went, and then the doorman said like, yeah, or something.
They're not here. They went to their lake house for.
That's what the doorman.
That's what the doorman said.
Because she had posted on Instagram, and then she had her check, and then it was like, she's actually still not there. So then she goes way down the rabbit hole, and she's like,
conspiracy.
Yeah, she's like, he's he did something to her, and he is posting on her Instagram to make it look like whatever. Because I think too, it also, I don't remember if it was the post or what, but something told her, somehow she found out that the phone was still at the lake. Do you remember that? She was like, it's showing that it's like still there.
I don't remember that part. Maybe it's Find My Friends or something.
Maybe, but I don't feel like she said that. I don't remember how.
It's one of those apps. Your location.
Her Snapchat location.
Oh man, that actually helped solve a murder.
What?
Location.
That's wild.
Yeah. I don't remember who it was. This kid murdered his parents at their lake house, and the girlfriend was upset because the kid, her boyfriend, was ignoring her, and they were supposed to get together, and she was like, he's doing something. So she looked up his location on Snapchat and thought that it was weird, so she screen grabbed it and showed the cops, and they found the parents.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Imagine, how'd you get busted? Snapchat. That's embarrassing. Be a better murderer.
Because the girlfriend thought he was like,
leave it to a scorned girlfriend to fucking find your ass.
What do you mean he can't meet me? What do you mean he can't answer my phone calls? Suspicious.
That's wild. That's so crazy. I don't know. Well, somehow, I don't remember how. Somehow she saw that her phone was still there.
Oh, yeah.
It was, we really got off on like a whole other story. Her phone was still there, the post, and then verifying she wasn't there. She's at the lake from the doorman, all the things, and she's just like spiraling at this point. I also feel like we forgot kind of a part of another person she met.
I don't think she met him yet. Boone?
I thought she met him. I thought the night that she met him was before.
She met Boone randomly. I can't remember exactly how she met him, because
he like came over because he was working on her neighbor's house or whatever. And then they had that like real not great interaction.
Yeah, because he was a recovering alcoholic, and
she's an alcoholic.
And he's like, she goes, I kind of feel bad for offering an alcoholic a drink. I didn't know. And she's like, she felt that Boone, which is a character, insert character Boone.
At some point during this plot, he comes in. He is like doing handyman work at the house like right next to her. Not obviously right next to, because they're not that close, but the house closest to her.
Her neighbor's house, just however many acres away.
Does she? I was saying that because I thought that. How did he end up getting involved in the whole thing? Is what I'm asking, I guess.
That's the first interaction, and then she ends up talking to Eli again, and she gets upset with Eli because she's like, why didn't you tell me that? So that Boone got the house from, it's another neighbor down the lake, and he goes, well, I didn't want to introduce you guys because he's on his healing journey and stopped drinking, and he like kind of left it there, and she like filled in the blank that she's not doing well, is also an alcoholic when he's recovering. At some point while she was spying on Tom and Catherine, she clocks Boone taking a skinny dip, a nightly nudie dip in the lake, and she's like, hello, in the moonlight.
So then there was like interest there, but then after she starts going crazy because she's like trying to figure out what's going on with Catherine, I thought she brings him into the mix of like what's going on.
I don't know how exactly he got brought into it, but eventually, because he was a former cop, and so he had cop friends. What was her name? Wanda? The cop's name?
I don't remember. I think maybe you're right. Is it because like she came to like question them, and then that was when she found that out?
Because
I did not know.
Because Catherine had a friendship with Boone, and the time that she had drowned, I don't think this is revealed yet at this point, but the time like when she was drowning, she had swam to Boone, and
she didn't know that yet.
She didn't know
because that's part of the reason why she ends up getting pissed at him. But I can't remember how he gets brought into the fact that like she's trying to figure out.
Maybe he caught her spying on them.
I know that one part where she decides to break in to the house.
Yes.
Because she knows the phone is there.
She knows the phone is there.
I told you there was some reason she knows the phone is there.
Girl, I don't remember. So many things happened. So many things happened and she was drunk the entire book.
It was as disjointed as we're making it.
So, I mean, yeah, it was.
She goes over there to break in to try to like find the phone.
Maybe he catches her like.
So he ends up saving
he catches
her ass because so she's in there rooting around like whatever, and while she's
trying
doing
to find clues,
she finds the phone in the like dresser or whatever, and she like calls it from her phone, so she like knows it's hers. And then what's his name, Tom? She hears him like coming home.
Mm-hmm.
That was when Boone came in because I think he was watching her inside the house, like break into their house, and so then he went over there to intercept and like stall Tom so she could get out.
She's like, thanks. Yeah, you're right.
So then they end up having the whole conversation about like she thinks that she's like missing, whatever. And then he come to find out he was an ex-police officer at that jurisdiction.
I think
whatever
jurisdiction is right.
Whatever, that precinct.
Yeah.
And so he knows
a detective
that.
The life of me, I can't remember her name. I want to say Wanda. No, it was, what is Fred Flintstone's? Wilma.
You're right. I would have believed you. You said Wanda because I think I did earlier. I'm pretty sure
she's got to be tough because imagine having that name and being Wilma. Yeah. And she mentioned the Flintstones.
Oh,
anyway.
Okay. So Wilma, and so
gets called to investigate the disappearance.
Yeah.
And Wilma's like, "Stay out of it, Casey. You don't want to intervene or whatever."
Yeah.
Like, and Casey being a drunk can't let you go. Can't stop. She's like, "Can't stop, won't stop. This is my investigation. She's my friend. I rescued her." So, which really irritates Tom because it really puts a thorn in Tom's side with the police and her questioning, and he's, his story is his wife left him, and he's showing all these people egg on his face when he's a what did we say?
Tech mogul. What?
No, that he's a perceptions. What does he care about?
Oh, status.
He cares about status.
Yeah, and what the optics of everything looks like.
And it's not looking good for him.
Yeah.
This right now. With the investigation and all this stuff. So, Casey keeps investigating.
She's convinced that he killed her. And so then she goes to... Well, I guess like her and Boone kind of concoct the plan.
Her and Boone start...
Like he's going to be the lookout. Or no, what? I don't remember. When she goes and breaks in. Yeah.
For the laptop, I'm thinking about the part where they investigate together and try and they make the parallel with Catherine going missing and putting that parallel with the 3 girls that had gone missing on the lake.
And then they think that Tom
is that person.
Like serial killer.
Yeah.
Taking these women.
And so Casey starts, because of the first interaction where Boone saves her ass, she starts pulling him into her investigation because she finds out that he was a former police officer. And so they start investigating Tom together.
And then they kind of start a little something. I don't know. They don't really start anything.
Like a romance?
But there's like interest and it's not really romance.
It's not really a romance, but they start like flirting with each other.
Yeah.
And they both know that they're like attracted to each other, but they're both widows. His wife died like,
which she finds out. She found out that later. Like during this time is when she finds out. She didn't know that like early on. And then I don't remember. Why is this so hard to like piece together what happened? It was so chaotic.
It was so chaotic. There's a lot going on. Because there's a lot of like little stuff that happens that feel like big things because it feels big to the character.
So they had like a budding romance. Like it was like something maybe could have happened. But then she finds out that Boone was actually friends with and finds out about how like the day that she was like drowning that she had actually gone to him and whatever. And so then it takes a turn and she thinks that Boone is like scorned lover,
culprit.
like affair that gone wrong, and so he killed her. So she's now gone off the deep end that like it's him that's kind of like what is
Oh yeah, and then she brings that to Wilma, and Wilma's like, absolutely not.
yeah, that's not him, all the things. And she's like, okay, great. So then she takes matters into her own hands
Further
again.
into her own hands.
Yeah. Another one. And I don't remember how she gets there. How to
Get where?
to where the shit goes down.
She breaks into an empty house. One of the neighbors' house that's empty. Are you talking?
Did she follow him? How did she
She was watching Tom Royce, and Tom Royce went to some house, some cabin, whatever, and she followed him, and she waited for him to leave. She entered, and that's where she found Catherine tied up to a bed with plastic on her.
yeah.
And she thought that she was dead, and which honestly, how I was visualizing it was so disgusting. I was like, no AC, all the humidity, harps. I was like, there's a lake. This person is like
I love
bloated.
the fact that you're like not even worried about no AC. Like, like that's
The humidity.
like, listen. Anyway, so it goes in there.
Because,
She's like tied
even
up.
if there wasn't, and there was like a body in there, could you imagine the stench?
Oh well, yeah.
The
Horrible.
humidity and the heat and the plastic tarp and the sweat.
I'm dead.
But then,
But come to find out,
come to find out, she's alive.
yeah. So she's just tied up, and then
She's like, Catherine, oh my gosh, I knew he had something to do with it. I mean, I'm trying to help you. And then Tom,
comes in.
and she's like, what are you doing? You gotta stay out. She's blah, blah, blah. It's not her. Something's wrong with her. And
Yeah,
she's like,
That's what Tom's saying to her, trying to explain that she's not herself, all these things, and she's like, no.
yeah.
And then she like kind of calms down enough to like,
I think she enters into like a fight or flight mode, because then she stops thinking of like, I have to save her. She starts thinking about, how do I settle Tom down so I can handle this?
yeah.
So she switches gears.
And then says that she like wants to talk to her.
Yeah, because I can't remember how it came up, but because we're about Catherine, not being Catherine.
I thought that he's like trying to tell her that like something's wrong with her, and then so she's like, I want to talk to her, and then she locks Tom out, and then she ends up talking with the plan to, so he leaves to let her talk to her, but he's like, don't untie her, like something's not right, whatever. He leaves, and she like immediately like blocks up the door, like all the things, and she's like gonna go
Let Catherine go.
yeah. And then Catherine starts talking, but she like kind of sounds weird and whatever. And then the plot twist happens, is revealed that Catherine is possessed by the ghost of Casey's husband, Len. So,
Did you get that out?
yeah. It was just so,
It was,
it was something.
yeah, it's like, Lynn?
Yeah. Because he starts talking to her like how he would talk to her whenever he was alive and stuff.
Said her only Z, which was her nickname. His nickname for her that nobody knew, apparently.
Yeah.
Come on, Z.
I thought it
Just,
was
where did
C.
C?
Yeah.
I listened to it.
I heard
Z. I didn't like the narrator. She had a strange accent. Side note. I listened to this on Audible.
I did listen to it too.
I thought it was a really...
The narrator was awful. I do remember that. I hated that.
She had a
But
strange
I thought it was C.
accent. And
Casey.
she sounded older. While I was listening to it, I thought Casey was in her like 40s. But she was in her 30s.
No, I thought that too. I'm pretty sure I even said that. I was talking to somebody at one point, and I was like, it was super weird because it like starts out and she sounds like 40, 50-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And then
Mature.
she's actually like, oh, I'm
Or
a widow at
mid-30s.
like,
35, 36.
She's fairly young, so
She didn't-
it was wild. There was a major disconnect there. I didn't like that either. Anyways,
I heard Z. It could be C, like the letter C.
yeah, or
C as
because
in
of
cow.
KC.
That would make more sense. Anyway.
Anyway, that's so irrelevant.
C, same thing.
He calls her by her nickname that, like, he's the only one who called her that, and then they're, like, talking, and he, like, knows things that Only he would know.
The reveal, like the confirmation of how she knew it was him, was the nickname and how he truly passed.
Yes.
On to the other.
Mm-hmm. So, did they get out of there when she finds that out?
No, that was part of the confirmation. Lynn is trying to convince Casey that he's actually Lynn and not Catherine. Lynn in Catherine's body. And he's like, don't you know, see? And she's like, well, I don't ever remember saying that nickname in front of Catherine, but I've been drinking so much, maybe I blacked out and slipped out. And then he's like, well, how about the truth of how I really died and you killed me? And she's like, it's really him, because she's the only one that knew that, whatever. Yeah. And so she's like, and so to further the conversation with her dead husband in her newly friend's body, she's like convincing him that's inside of her that she's gonna let him go. So she starts to untie him, that way Tom doesn't interrupt their conversation. And so she unties him but ties his arms behind her back. Anyway, and so that way she can take whoever this is
the body
to her house, where she continues the interrogations, because she doesn't want to be interrupted by Tom, and she has more questions for Lynn about why she killed him.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yes, because she is wanting answers. Yeah, you're right.
On top of all of this madness, there's a stage 5 hurricane going on in the middle of the lake, and she, you know what she decides to do? Get in the boat.
I don't think the hurricane was there yet, but it was like storming, getting crazy. People are like boarding up their house and shit, and she's like, let's go ahead and
hop on the boat where people are dying.
Take my possessed best friend / dead husband across the lake in the storm. That way I can go
interrogate her.
Ask him / her questions.
It was rough.
But they get over there.
And
I'm trying to remember like the series of events here.
I know there's so many things that happen.
I'm just gonna start saying shit because like I don't know.
There's no point of trying to go chronologically, because all this stuff happens literally within like 2-3 chapters and like the very end. Yeah. So they get over to her house.
Yes.
Tom is nowhere to be found. He's like still over there. I don't know, locked in a room. I don't know. And
I think like they locked him out or something. Anyway, regardless, he's not there.
He stays in the basement, the humid basement.
Not the humid basement.
The humid basement. Whatever. So
they go over there.
They go back to Casey's house.
And they start recounting how
the events leading up to Lynn dying.
Yeah, and how / why Casey killed him.
Yes.
And so, as you know, it was like a little over a year, whatever, since the
event
thing happened, since he died. And during that last summer, they were visiting.
I know what you did last summer.
Her and Len were visiting her family cabin. And they're like, we love it. We're just two
happy newlyweds
people
that
in
have
love.
been married for 5 years.
And so they're out on the lake for their summer vacation, whatever. And he is trying to do something.
He wants the lighter, and he says it's in the tackle box near the tackle.
Look at you, remembering things. I knew he was doing something and had her go get something. I just couldn't remember what the things were. So lighter, he says, it's in the tackle box. I think like in the basement.
Yeah. Or in the shed or something. Oh.
Buddy had to go. Anyway, so she goes down. This is pre-everything. This is when he's still alive. He's still living.
Yeah, he's still alive.
They're visiting at the lake. He's doing something, I don't know what, grilling? Why would he need a lighter?
I don't know. Light a candle, they're romantic. Starting a fire, who knows?
Okay. He needs a lighter. He's like, hey, it's in the tackle box downstairs. Whatever. She goes, opens up tackle box, and there's the evidence.
The evidence being a rag, and she's like, I didn't know Lynn smoked weed. Let me see what kind of weed he has.
Opens it up.
And it's driver's licenses with hair attached to them. And then she's like, that's weird. Maybe, he's having an affair. Maybe he found them and he's trying to get them back to them. And, she's making all this shit up, and she's like, no, that's not right. So she ends up looking up their names, and all of them had gone missing.
Oh, I thought she had just, remembered them. But maybe you're right.
No, she was in straight Delulu land.
Karen found all these driver's licenses.
Yeah.
It's clearly a reasonable explanation.
Yeah, there's a reasonable explanation because he would never do it. He's like the perfect man.
So she looks it up and
She
finds
looks it up.
out
all of them are missing. On top of that, she realizes that all of the time frame that they had been missing, Lynn was out of town. Like he was supposed to come to the lake, or no,
He was going to LA
He
for
was
work.
going to to like some hotel.
It was always during times whenever they were apart
Correct.
that they went missing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she called these hotels and was like, "Hey, because she went through their card receipts, and the charges were there, but there was never a check-in."
Yeah.
So
I think it's kind of crazy that she did all of this investigating while he's like waiting for the lighter. Like you would have think that like he would have come down at some point and been like, "Did you find it?"
I don't know if it's all within that time, but she did. I don't know. That's a good point. I haven't really put that together. I was like trying to follow along. So she realizes that he's the one that is murdering them. Mm-hmm. So she's like, how am I going to face him? How am I supposed to look at him and get some answers or whatever? So she wants to like confront him about it or confirm this, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're out. They decide to do like a dinner, start a fire by the lake where they have like a little fire pit, and they decide to drink wine. So what she does is she puts allergy medicine or Dramamine or something I think it's like Benadryl or something like that in the wine, and she gives the wine to him, and where the effects are more intense. And so she gets him all liquored up, and she seduces him onto the boat so they can have a romantic boat night on the lake. And he doesn't want to, but she convinces him, and while they're on the boat confronts him about those, and she's like, why did you do this? Is it really you? And you knew, why would you put it somewhere that I could find? Like, did you want to be caught? And so that's whenever he was like, it was exciting to see if he would find out or not. Yeah. But I would never hurt you, just them. And I'm like, okay. Right. I'm the exception.
When does that ever happen? And so she murderizes him.
Yes. She didn't intend on doing that originally. Intended to get a confession out of him and then turn him in.
Yes.
But then in the moment, she decided
and just
to do it. Yeah.
And pushed him out the boat.
Pushed him off the boat and then paddled back to shore and let nature take its course.
Because he was drunk and drugged up and all the things.
Yeah.
And he drowned in the lake, and then she went back home and acted
together.
like nothing happened. And then the police knocked on her door the next day.
Eli came to her door and was like, hey, your boat is in the middle of the lake. Did you forget to tie it? And she's like, she answers the door in like her gown.
Because she's like,
he usually goes out
whatever.
fishing. She's like, maybe we forgot to tie it off. We had a late night, whatever.
Well, she said she was like playing it off like she thought that he got up early to like go out fishing. And then the boat was out there, but obviously he wasn't in it.
Yeah. So they call in the police. They do some investigation. They end up finding him in the lake, drowned. I don't remember who exactly finds him, but his death was ruled an accidental drowning.
Yeah.
And then time went on, and she drank herself back to the lake.
So then fast forward to where we're at now. She has Catherine/Lynn at the house, and the answers that she's trying to get is where these girls are, because since she ended up just killing him, she didn't get any answers really about like where they were at and stuff, and so she felt bad about that, because then none of the families like were able to get closure, and she could have like found that out for them and all that stuff, and she just killed him instead.
Yeah. So she's like, while she's talking to possessed Catherine, she makes a deal with Lynn. It's like, if you tell me where these girls are, I'll let you go and you can do whatever you want. And he's like, he ends up believing it. And so he tells her where they are, and they end up getting back on the boat to find them. What the heck happens? She pushes Catherine. Does she push Catherine into the lake while they went to go find where their bodies were? The three girls' bodies were? Because somehow they both get into the lake.
Yes, because she I guess, puts together.
No. What? She absorbs Lynn into her body.
Yes, but first she puts together that this all happened because of the, like, Len's soul or whatever was, like, captured in the lake. And so Catherine, the day that she was, like, out on the lake, his soul, like, got her.
Entered into her.
Yeah, and that's why she was, like, lifeless. And then when she, like, pulled her out, she, like, all of a sudden came back too. Because that was the moment
Lynn.
she got possessed by him. Yeah.
But now they're both in there.
So she,
Both Catherine and Lynn are in Catherine's body.
Right.
She finds out.
And then she's like, essentially that's kind of what was happening and why Catherine seemed like she was going crazy because it was like Lynn slowly taking over until the point where like it was just fully him in her body. So then she like takes them out to the lake to like let him go or something.
She's like
under the
guise
pretense that that's what's going to happen. And I think she pushes Catherine in the lake because then she's like figures out that's how she can get him out of her. And so then she's in the lake and somehow gets Len's soul to go over to her body.
Yeah.
Which was crazy.
Yeah.
And then so Catherine gets saved. And then
so now Catherine's just Catherine.
Yeah, she's just Catherine.
And they're both back in the boat. And then she's untying Catherine and she's trying to tie herself up. And then she being Casey, is telling Catherine the cover story. You know, you ran away or you left and you disappeared because you left Tom and blah, blah, blah. And this is my fault and whatever. And Lynn is in her head like, don't do this, blah, blah, blah. You're going to let me go. And then she's like, Lynn didn't understand how far I would take it or how much I would sacrifice.
Yeah.
And then she throws herself in the lake tied up.
Yeah.
And
until she, like, essentially kind of drowns in order to get him. Well, she doesn't know that. She thinks she's just going to drown.
She's thinking she's going to be a martyr.
He thinks that she's going to die with him, and that's, like, going to be
that.
it. But she starts drowning, and then he is, like, panicking, whatever, and so it, like, leaves her again. So then his soul is back
in the lake.
She gets out, and she's now...
Catherine saves Casey.
Lake.
And now it's just Casey and just Catherine.
Lynn. And Len's soul is in the
soup.
Yep. The human
lake. There's a lot of things going on in that lake. There's bodies.
So
souls.
She had found out that he had, I don't even think he told her. I think she like figured it out because he was being like crazy. But that all the bodies of the other girls were in the lake.
That's where they parked the boat. Because that's why they went out on the lake.
To where that tree.
Yeah, because you couldn't see it with any of the other houses cannot see that spot.
Oh, that's right. It was like the blind spot to everybody.
Yeah.
So then, so they're like saved. They go back. The cops. Catherine gives her cover story of like whatever.
Everything is
and then
fine.
Casey ends up telling her.
Go ahead.
Telling Wilma that the girls are like...
Oh, yeah.
I think Wilma's the only one that she tells.
She doesn't tell Wilma everything. The only person that she tells about Lynn is Eli.
Okay.
She only tells Eli. And Eli ends up believing her, whatever. But I think she also tells Boone. Maybe some of it. I don't know what she tells Boone. But somehow Wilma gets called back because...
But I thought somehow Wilma knew that Len's the one who like killed these girls.
No, she being Casey calls Wilma, and she trusts Wilma because she finds out that Boone didn't, because Boone's wife ends up dying by falling down the stairs, and so she confronts Boone about, oh, you killed your wife, you know. That's what the articles
That was during
the
time when we thought, or they were trying to portray that he also possibly killed
these 3 girls.
Catherine, scorned lover, and then found out about the wife, and then it was like, oh, he's the murderer.
He's the murderer, and he's the murderer, and he's the murderer.
But Wilma was like...
No, it wasn't. She wasn't her, but Wilma never told her. Boone ended up telling Casey that she had committed suicide and left a letter, but he didn't want anybody to know because it would destroy her family. Yeah. And so Wilma made it pointed to it just being an accident.
So that's why she trusted Wilma with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Regarding Lynn and the girls that he actually
Yeah,
murdered.
so she takes Wilma on the boat and to the spot, the hidden spot, gives Wilma the licenses with the hair, and she tells her, I found this with Lynn's things, and I think you should start looking here. And she's like, how did you come across this information? And she's like, I know my husband would come here because this is the only blind spot in the cove or whatever.
I thought it was, okay, yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Whatever she said.
Whatever she says.
It was the reason he would come there and whatever. And so she, like, trusted Wilma would, like, just handle the situation and essentially, like, not ask any more questions and just take it for what it was that they were going to, like, find the bodies.
Yes.
So they do. They find all the girls, and so then those families get
funerals and yes. So you think everything's fine, and you think that's the end of it, but it's not. There's more, believe it or not. So now that the weight has been lifted off of Casey and she's no longer drowning in liquor, because she decides to toss it all down the sink, remember, all of it? And when she gets the $5,000 bottle of wine, she's like, something's not right. She calls Wilma and she's like, do you still have that wine bottle? I bet you it has some blah, blah, blah. Because she, as soon as she saw the wine bottle, she thought, you know, some of this stuff happened before Catherine was feeling uneasy prior to her drowning in the lake. So it wasn't only Lynn that was hindering her body. So then when she saw the bottle of wine, she remembers Tom gushing to her about her play, and in that play she murders her husband with the same way with the drugs and the wine. And then she calls Wilma and says, I think Tom is trying to murder Catherine, blah blah blah.
again.
And she hangs up the phone, and then, speak of the devil, Tom is there, and he's like, how dare you? Now I have these people like looking, keeping a close eye. Now I can't kill her the way I wanted. I talked to Lynn, and he had a lot of ways to kill these women, and blah blah blah. And so he's pissed at Casey because ruined his plan to murder his rich wife. Come to find out, the wife pays for everything, and he has nothing, and his business is upside down, and he wanted to kill her to get all the money. And now he has radar on his back, and now he's pissed at Casey, and the best thing for him to do is to kill her, apparently, and the wife. So they end up getting in an altercation, and it gets taken outside. And they end up fighting. Ends up getting physical. She falls in the bank of where the lake is, and like the dock where Catherine dropped the bottle of wine or glass or something that one night
the night of the dinner, and she like got seemingly drunk but was actually drugged, and she had dropped the wine glass and it broke everywhere.
Yeah, so she grabbed that out of the lake and used it to defend herself against Tom. So she cut his neck or hit him. I don't know what happened here. He got. He fell in the lake, gushing. more fluids into the soup pond. And so Catherine's like, this is my second body. So she gets up and she waits for Lynn. And then here comes Tom. It's actually Lynn. And then she's like, I'm ready. Again, killed her husband. Third time.
Third time's the charm.
He's
gonna stay dead this time.
And she's like, wait. And then here he goes. Is he back in the lake? We'll never know.
And that's how it is. We don't know if he's in there or not. Casey obviously grew from this whole situation she dealt with. And we, have a little bit of closure and ambiguity. That's the end.
It was a lot.
It was a lot, but then also it was just like
a lot of nothing too.
It was so much nothing. I feel like so many details, like you were going to say earlier. It like seemed important, but then it really wasn't. And then the twist, the possession thing just like came out of nowhere. I feel like
they didn't really hint much to it other than
him telling that story. But it was really
randomly.
Just like,
they're like, it's in the middle of the night. You're by a fire pit. You're at the lake. What else do? You tell ghost stories.
You talk about the like weird shit that people like.
That's the only time it's brought up. And honestly, I didn't really read too much into this
and
book.
it wasn't
I
really
it was
talking
more of like
about
a murder mystery. I wasn't expecting anything about like ghosts or possession or whatever
I
supernatural stuff.
legitimately thought the whole thing was just gonna be like she got murdered and like because she's like watching them across the lake, she's trying to figure out the murder.
Like a murder mystery.
Yes, exactly. That's what I thought.
And
then it was like, then we had this twist that was just wild. And listen,
I'm all for a twist.
And I'm all for like supernatural shit happening. I just don't think it was done very well. And I feel like it just came out of left field in this one. It didn't make sense. And then we get to that point, like you said earlier, we were like very close to the end by the time this happened. And then all this shit happened. And then it was like double down, triple down on this weird ass possession thing that's happening. Because that's the other thing. Even though they talked about it that night and he was like telling the story, he was really only talking about the soul getting stuck in the lake. Not that it like
not
possessed anybody or like.
Not that he heard it from a friend of a friend. It was a what is it called?
Like old wives' tale.
Yeah. Wives' tale. That's why
your soul will get stuck in there. Not that it can all like come get you.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I feel like it was thrown in there very haphazardly, and it didn't build into that very well. Also clocked her murdering her husband in the first quarter of the book.
Yeah.
I feel like that was so obvious.
Yeah.
And I also was really annoyed that there were so many suspects.
And that's why I kept saying, like, they made it seem like, because even though they were clearly, I mean, Riley Sager was like, which is crazy, because I really like Riley Sager. I don't understand.
This is my first book of hers. Or his.
I think it's him. It's theirs. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. That was like, it all just felt so disjointed, and it was really like they were clearly trying to point you in that direction, so it was kind of like it was making it so obvious that that wasn't actually what was happening. Yeah. So it was just like all these red herrings, but it just wasn't that great. And yeah, it was all the suspects, it was just the weird turns, and then like at the end it was almost just like they tried to put so much in, so it was like a crazy twist because like all these things happened, and it just ended up
of the book did not match.
No.
It did not match. Like, the twist about Boone could have happened mid-book, you know? Like, that story. Yeah. It could have been spread out a little bit more to where the middle of the book was just so many little things happen to where you want to pay attention because it's like, okay, well, this may tie in later. But then it's like 10 chapters of all these small little
just
like
random
weird
shit
happenings. And I think also it could be part of like the Casey being the narrator of the book and the perspective of her, and she's like literally drunk the entire time. Yeah. And she, at some point she like talks about how she has like 8 drinks a day, and at the beginning of the day she'll just shoot one down to get the edge off, and then she'll sip on something with her coffee, and then she'll switch to wine, and then a few hours later she'll do this. So she's like obviously an alcoholic because she wants to keep that like buzz feeling the whole time.
I kind of think like that was maybe what the writing was trying to do, was make it so like unreliable because the narrator was unreliable being a drunk, but it just felt, I don't know, I just felt like it was trying to like really throw you off, and it just didn't land with me.
I agree with you. It didn't land, and at the very end I felt like it was trying too hard to make it
a crazy
crazy.
I think so too.
Like, it could have, you know, I don't know. It just was like all within, in the book, it was like 2 days where all of this stuff happens. And they're like, what a wild 2 days.
Yeah.
What a wild 2 days. And honestly, I thought it was, I don't want to say hilarious, but her having to kill her husband 3 times when it was the love of her life.
It was just so ridiculous, honestly. It was just, I don't know. I just couldn't, and I'm not here for it to be like all make sense or all like it's a story, but it was too much. It was too much. It lost me. Did not keep me interested because it was trying to do too many things at once.
It was giving Lost. Remember that show? That's what it
was.
The
later seasons of Lost when things got weird.
It was giving like the first 5 seasons of Lost, where you're like, what the hell is going on? And then the last season and a half of it just being like, that's what this was giving.
And, like, the monsters and all the things happening. Yeah, I agree.
You're like,
I agree.
where did this come from?
That was a great comparison.
Like Secret Window from Stephen King and Johnny Depp and
Yeah.
Lost.
Dude, I don't even know. I was just not. I wasn't thrilled by it, but
To each their own. You know, some people may love it. Not for me.
yeah, not for me either.
Style.
I don't feel like
I don't know.
I don't feel like I disliked the writing.
Just like the sentence structure or like the actual writing. I wasn't a fan of the pacing or the storytelling.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The engagement
Was awful.
It was rough. It was hard. I mean, I'm sure you can hear
It was
through
slow
us talking
and
about
chaotic
it because it
at the
was
same
like
time.
so many things happen. You don't remember.
So many and nothing.
So many things happen. You don't remember the order. We were having hard time just talking about this book because you're like, when did this happen? So that brings us to overall ratings.
I gave it 2.
2.
Yeah, there were some moments that I like laughed at. I guess
There were some moments that really
did to her chaotic energy in the beginning, the drama, but I would not really recommend.
yeah, I wouldn't recommend this book.
I feel like there's a lot of other thrillers that
Yeah.
just yeah.
There are other
It was
yeah, the thrillers are
it was not bad enough for me to like DNF it or anything, but it just wasn't it
I agree.
for me.
I'm on track with you. I gave it like 2.5, 3. 3 is generous on my Goodreads because I didn't think it was a 2, so I rounded up to a 3. But on my Fable, it's a 2.5.
I cannot, in good conscience, give it a 3. Absolutely not.
Your baseline.
Yeah, that is my like. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was mediocre. You know, entertaining enough. It was not that.
I
It wasn't
found
even that.
entertaining because I was annoyed by it.
I hated it so much that I loved it.
Well, I wouldn't say loved.
I hated it so much that I
Found it mediocre. I was like, where is this going? Where is this going?
Nowhere.
I don't know, because now I'm having a hard time because you're like, I really like Riley Sager, and it was like my first experience with this author, and now I'm like put off. I don't know.
I think you should read, what is it, The Last House on the Left?
The movie with Jennifer Lawrence?
I don't know.
I've seen that movie. It was good.
Well, it's a book.
Of course
I don't know if it's a movie.
There's a movie called Last House on the Left.
Well, then maybe it's the same. I don't know.
We'll see. Maybe it's the same.
We'll
maybe it's
provide-
not. We'll provide
Answers on that when we can look it up. That wraps up
our first episode.
The House Across the Lake. Yay. That's exciting. That's the most exciting part about telling this whole thing. Was that too mean? I'm just saying. But so next week we're going to have our first
Theme week. It's Second Chances and Fresh Start.
So, the book we chose for that is going to be Funny
Story
by Emily Henry.
Yes, we're very excited. I'm very excited.
I'm not a big romance
Yes.
lover, but I'm going in open-minded. I think.
You know what? I'm just going to say this. This is the
excited to
whole
see what
point
happens.
of this podcast.
I mean, obviously.
yeah.
I'm going in open-minded. I hope it's good.
Yeah.
We're going to read it, and we're going to tell you what we think.
We'll be honest. We'll be honest.
Yeah.
She's very popular right now,
Mm.
so I'm hoping it's not a overhyped thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we're excited to share our thoughts on that one with you next Sunday.
Next Sunday. That's it for this week. If your grip on reality is as loose as that plot twist, don't worry, you're in good company. See you next time on Marginally Unwell.